Our next speaker, also a constant power behind our information that we try to spread through La Lima Pahoa and through this event. Please welcome Dr. Phil Denny.
Thank you all. Can you hear me? I want to bring, first of all, to say thank you to everyone for coming. I bring greetings from our friend Mitch Fidel, who runs the American Alliance for Medical Cannabis in California, and was a good friend of Billy LeVan's, who we're doing this in memory of. I just wanted to correct a former speaker. I'm here because of Billy, not the other way around. I came to visit Billy 6 or 7 years ago, and it took me 2 days to figure out that Puna's really pretty cool. So here I am. I'm a retired physician. I practiced family medicine for many years. I worked in the ERs, did a variety of other things. I got involved with medical cannabis in very early days, around 1998, give or take. I then transitioned my practice into seeing patients regarding the use of cannabis under California's laws, and became embroiled in the court system. I think that's what I did most, that I think made the most difference, was testifying in court, both at the federal and the local level. I wanted to speak today about just a couple of things that I think are very exciting that's happening in the scientific and medical world regarding the use of cannabis. There was an article last year published in Israel, which has a very progressive point of view about cannabis and where a lot of exciting things are being done. The Israeli scientists spent a lot of time and standardized the cannabinoids and terpenes from individual cultivars of plants. He created a library of these substances that are available now worldwide for other researchers to use. And what makes this important is that the scientific community and the federal government has said for many years that we can't use cannabis because there's no controlled clinical studies that are done. Well, of course, using a plant-based medicine, doing controlled studies is extremely difficult, and the federal government, in my opinion, has used this as a way to suppress progress in the medical use of cannabis. So this study that was done, this library of cannabinoids that has been produced, will now allow individual researchers worldwide to use specific cannabinoid profiles from specific plants and can compare and contrast and so forth. This is going to create, I believe, an avalanche of evidence about how these separate cannabinoids work, and of particular importance, how they work together. This is called the entourage effect, and I'm going to speak about that in just a little bit more. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to be able to produce randomized controlled clinical trials using this library of cannabinoids, and I think it's going to make a huge difference in research, and ultimately I think it's going to lead to FDA approval of cannabis-based, plant-based medicines, and I think that's important. The second thing I think that's happening with cannabis that I see as important is the relationship between the use of cannabis and the opioid overdose epidemic that we're having in this country. 72,000 deaths from opioid overdoses in 2017. That is 6,000 a month, or 1,500 deaths every single week. There has been some interesting and exciting research that suggests that opiate addicts who use cannabis are able to reduce their opiate consumption by about 50%. This is huge. You know, how many deaths do we have to prevent to make something worthwhile? I mean, so I think that this is going to get a lot of attention. And as the research continues, I think we're going to see cannabis become a first-line treatment for opioid addiction. It's interesting to note that a recent study in the Internal Medicine Journal showed that in states that have a medical cannabis law, the opiate overdose deaths reduced by about 25%. I mean, that's a huge number, and I think is going to get more and more attention. The other thing, one of the other things that's happening is we're beginning to understand the chemistry and metabolism of the cannabinoid substances that occur naturally in the body. These are called the endocannabinoids, and we're just beginning to figure out how to control these. So what we're going to see in the future, I believe, is that we're going to have drugs that will affect the enzyme systems that break the cannabinoids down. So what will happen, if you have PTSD, for example, you may be able to take a pill in the morning that will make the enzyme that breaks down these substances not work as well. Therefore, there will be higher levels in the system. This will be a revolution if that happens, because you don't have to smoke anything, you don't have to eat anything. We're going to affect the way that the enzymes break down the naturally occurring substances. How can the DEA complain about that? I mean, so I think that's exciting. We're also beginning to learn a great deal about the terpenes. The terpenes are substances that give cannabis its smell, its distinctive smell. The active molecules, THC, CBD, and so forth, have no odor. So when you buy a bag of weed, typically what most people do is they stick their nose in it. Well, what you're smelling is the terpenes. And so the interaction between the terpenes and the cannabinoids is going to be very interesting. And again, the study from Israel is going to allow us to do that. We're going to be able to switch and substitute the different terpenes and find out exactly what they do. One of the other things that's happening is there's been progress in the genetics of how the cannabinoid system works and its relationship to human illnesses. One of the first things that's been done is there's some very exciting work that has demonstrated that in people who have migraine headaches, for example, have a very, very subtle change in their endocannabinoid DNA. As this is explored and fleshed out, I think we will be able to utilize that to do some very exciting things for people who have illnesses that are proven to be related to problems with the endocannabinoid system. I think this makes perfect sense. I want to finish my remarks today by commenting on something that's been in the news recently. It's called cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. This is a situation where heavy cannabis users, particularly those who use dabs and concentrates and oils, develop a syndrome that's characterized by protracted, uncontrolled vomiting, and the only thing that works is they either get in a hot shower or a hot bathtub. Well, what we found is that when you smoke large amounts of very concentrated cannabis, you suppress the receptors, particularly the CB1 receptor. And when you do that, you get sick. What's the good news is this is all it takes to fix this is short-term abstinence. All you have to do is stop for a couple of days. Your CB1 receptors upregulate again, and then you can start using cannabis again relatively quickly within a few days. So while the syndrome itself looks very terrible, its treatment is very simple. You just have to use your common sense. So this is where we're going with all of this. I think that the future for the use of cannabis as medicine has never been brighter, and we're going to find some absolutely fascinating things and get many new ways how to use this for human benefit. Thank you all. I will be available to answer any questions about any of this. If anybody's interested, I'll be over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. And again, he will be hanging around, so if you have questions, that you need. I want to make sure that we thank Primo from Uncle Robert for sticking with us and doing the sound for us, taking up his entire afternoon. Our next speaker is from Hawaii Ethos Dispensary. Kia is going to, I think she has a presentation as well for you. Again, this is I think you're going to be down here, and so if there's time and you have questions, then I guess get them together and you can ask them right away, or find any one of these folks out in the crowd once they've stopped speaking. Okay.
Aloha! Thank you all so much for the opportunity to come here and speak with you today. My name is Kea Keolanui, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for Hawaiian Ethos. Hawaiian Ethos is one of the 2 medical cannabis licensees here on the Big Island. The other is Big Island Grown. They recently opened up. We are looking to open in the next month or so. There are a total of 8 licensees in the state of Hawaii. 2 on Maui, 3 on Oahu, 2 here on Big Island, and 1 on Kauai. Each licensee can open up to 3 dispensaries. Our executive team, which you guys can't really see the TV here, but if you want to get a closer look, you're welcome to come up. Also, I'll be at our booth later if you have any questions. So our executive team has been working really hard to get doors open. Our first dispensary is looking to open in Kailua-Kona, right off of Hinalani Street, below Costco. I'm sure some of my Hilo people know where Costco is located. So our mission at Hawaiian Ethos is to offer medical cannabis choices and educational resources to empower people to find medicine that works. As I go through some of these slides, I'll be highlighting some of these initiatives really behind this mission. The Hawaiian Ethos approach is first and foremost patient-focused. We're working with patients on islands with various medical conditions ranging from cancer, epilepsy, PTSD, chronic pain, and even Parkinson's. By really talking with these patients and identifying what their needs are, we're able to create medicine that is more specific for their conditions. Along with really talking with these patients and identifying needs, we're also going to be creating medicine and products that are microdosing options as well as non-intoxicating. Our company is very science-based, so all of our product development team stays up to date with the most recent cannabis medicine research. Of course, compliance with all state laws. The medical cannabis licensees here in the state of Hawaii are regulated by the Department of Health. So any rules and regulations that they set forth, we really intertwine into all aspects of our business, from cultivation to manufacturing as well as retail. And also being socially and environmentally responsible. So this is so important. Taking care of our lands, taking care of our communities, as well as our employees. So Hawaiian Ethos believes in setting an industry standard. We're one of the first medical cannabis licensees here on island. So that means we really believe in treating our employees well, paying more than a living wage, giving benefits, as well as paid time off. So we're going to be opening up in Hilo here in the later of the year. So we will be accepting applications. Kona is looking, like I said, looking to open up in the next month or so. So we currently staffed that location. However, there will be a lot of opportunities for the east side of the island. So please come and talk to me after this presentation, and I'm happy to talk with you about it. So in the state of Hawaii, all medical cannabis licensees who are able to open dispensaries are responsible for a seed to sale process, meaning that it's a vertically integrated cannabis industry. So we're responsible for cultivation, manufacturing, and retail. So the moment that the plant goes into the ground to the time that it flowers, either the flower is then dried, cured, packaged, or possibly turned into extract, which will then be turned into the product, which both will end up into patients' hands. However, throughout that process, all licensees in the state of Hawaii are held to very rigorous lab testing standards. So we are tested by AOS labs as well as Steep Hill labs. And anybody who are growers here, it's good for you to know that these labs are actually open to take samples from the general public as well. I believe you do need your 329 card, but it's a really great opportunity to make sure that your cannabis doesn't have any contaminants such as pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, heavy metals, toxins, you name it, they're really testing for it to ensure that the product that ends up in patients' hands is medical grade and clean. So taking care of our Aina and the people that are a part of it is one of the long-term goals of Hawaiian Ethos. So we're really putting our best foot forward, being as sustainable and green as possible. And ways that we're doing this is reducing our carbon footprint, reducing waste, as well as being responsible about resource management. So if you're more curious, you can come up to our table in the back. I have some photos of our cultivation site. However, behind this image here is our cultivation facility, which is about an acre in size, all under translucent roofing. So we're really reaping the benefits of the Hawaiian sun. There have been a lot of research studies done, as well as a lot of people in our company believe that sun-grown cannabis produces higher terpene and cannabinoid properties. So along with that, it also, thank you, it also is reducing our carbon footprint, which is just huge. We completely support all of the green and sustainable initiatives. So our cultivation facility is ecologically designed with a recycled water system, as well as our translucent roofing. And when we're looking at our manufacturing process, so how we're making products, we're looking at a solvent-free extraction process. And I'm happy to go into more detail if you're curious. Again, you can come and see me about that. And also non-plastic packaging options. So this is a huge desire that we've heard from patients and all over the islands, all over the islands in Hawaii. We don't want to see plastic littering our beaches. So we are completely supportive of this movement, and our packaging is actually going to be compostable and non-plastic. So our products, we believe at Hawaiian Ethos, we believe in creating safe, high-quality products that meet a wide range of patient needs and preferences. One of those initiatives is really a true controlled dose. So whether it's a capsule or a lozenge or an under the tongue dissolving tab, each time that you take that product, you'll know exactly how much THC, CBD, what terpene profiles exist in the product, and each time that you take it, it will consistently be the same. So in the cannabis industry right now, there really is not a lot of research around dosing. So it's kind of a learn as you go experimental process for a lot of patients. So by providing this true controlled dose, we're really giving patients that opportunity to say, hey, that 5 milligram lozenge, I think I need about 5 more milligrams. And each time that you take it, you'll know that you'll have that consistent measurement, as well as multiple delivery formats. So some of the delivery forms that you're going to be seeing at Hawaiian Ethos are sublingual, which is under the tongue, oral, which is you're taking by mouth, swallowing, topical, which is right on the skin, as well as pulmonary, which I think everyone is familiar with, smoking, vaping, going through the lungs. But we're really looking at a lot of non-pulmonary options. Children with epilepsy, older patients who may not be as prone to smoking. So we're really trying to provide products for all types of patients. As well as that, we are also going to have a variety of cannabinoid and terpene profiles that will be listed on the product, a variety of strains. And you can't really see the TV, but if you saw the packaging on the right-hand corner, you'll see it's very black and white. It's plain. In the state of Hawaii, you're not going to see any packaging with colorful, bright colors or gummy worms or gummy bears, no brownies, no cookies. The state of Hawaii has really done their due diligence to ensure that all products do not appeal to children. And so we're definitely very supportive of that. Oh, couple more. So being a part of our community here on the Big Island is so important to us. So connecting with patients, caregivers, physicians, and the community at large so that we can all learn and grow together. This is a very new industry, and cannabis is a medicine that helps so many. And we really want to work together to ensure that we're providing enough resources and information to people. And so just this past December, we hosted 2 educational events, one in Hilo, one in Kona. We brought our medical advisor, Dr. Stacy Marie Kerr, who is from California, and she's very knowledgeable in cannabis medicine. She's helped hundreds of patients in her lifetime, and we're very lucky that she comes over here and provides these resources for patients on island. And so we're planning on doing more events, such as those that we did in December. We also invited some physicians to a physician-only event, both cannabis recommending physicians and physicians who might not be recommending cannabis yet. And this is really a great opportunity for that group of people to get together and share information and really focus on improving the quality of life for medical cannabis patients here on islands. We also have our website, HawaiianEthos.com, which hosts our top story portion, and it has an abundance of really great articles that are written by Dr. Kerr as well as our communications director. So if you're interested in learning more, our website really hosts a great amount of info. And we're also working with patient support groups on island. So Epilepsy Foundation of Hawaii, Hawaii Cancer Support Group through Hui Malama na Leona Oiwi, as well as Hawaii Parkinson's Association and a couple of PTSD support groups on island. So if anyone has their own support group or would like to start one, please come and visit me as well on the table in the back. I'm happy to talk with you about it, give you more information. Next. So, community grow. Community grow is geared toward what we hope the future of the medical cannabis industry will look like here in Hawaii. So as I mentioned, Hawaii is currently in a vertically integrated cannabis industry. So from seed to sale, from retail, manufacturing, cultivation, we're responsible for every part. And so the state has set up a system that has only allowed for 2 licensees here on Hawaii Island. With respect to our current license situation, we feel Hawaii communities and economy would better benefit from a horizontally integrated cannabis industry. So if anyone was here, thank you. So if anyone was here for Ikaika Kili'iho'omalu's talk in the very beginning, he mentioned a lot about small licenses and making it possible for people who have been growing for years and have such amazing strains strains or amazing extraction techniques, to really get involved in the industry and have an opportunity to be a part of it. And we completely support that. And what really needs to happen is more voices need to be heard. People need to advocate for these changes, and we definitely support that. So a horizontally integrated cannabis industry would consist of multiple small licenses that target cultivation, processing, and retail as separate entities. So Bill SB 686 was recently proposed in Congress, and unfortunately it did not pass. This bill proposed additional small medical cannabis licenses for specific industry needs. And we truly believe that if everyone works together in Hawaii, we could have a healthy, robust cannabis industry that has no need for import from the US mainland or other countries. We encourage patients and the community members to get involved in this legislative process. Have your voice heard, advocate for the changes that you'd like to see. On Hawaiian Ethos, we will be posting in the next couple of weeks. We'll be adding a section on our website which will have legislative updates about medical cannabis and cannabis in general in the state of Hawaii, and we'll have ways that you can get involved and really reach those legislatures in our office to ensure that your voice gets heard. So thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I wanted to mention just a couple more there. Mary Ewing is one of our vendors, Kabuchi. We have Nima Birmingham is doing t-shirts. There's a whole bunch of vendors over there, so please do visit them. They are helping to support this event. The event is put on by LeVan Pahoa. And our next speaker is right here. Is this orange? Our next speaker is a medical patient with, I think, a story to tell. So please, Orange, speak up.
Thank you very much, brother. As spoken a moment ago, I'm here to share a simple story of how cannabis has changed my life. And I'll try to sum up this very large, beautiful, golden loop for you as best I can. Began casually smoking at 12, many, many years later, I'd say about 4. Can everybody hear me? That better now? My bad, sorry. Let me get this mic up then. Yeah, there we go, okay. Hi again. My story is pretty short and simple. About 2 years ago, on March 21st, I had a very large grand mal seizure in my sleep. It forced me to bite my tongue and vomit, and if my mother hadn't have been there, I'd have drowned in my sleep. You would not have seen me here today. I was taken to the hospital. I don't even really remember what happened, other than waking up in the ambulance once and there's this fuzzy image of a doctor talking to me, and I wake up again and there's an IV in my arm and my mom was crying next to me. I'd been asleep for the past 4 days, I think. Anyway, I'd had a few hundred micro seizures in my sleep at that time, probably about 300. So, in the doctor's estimate, I've aged my body, even though it seems okay, about 40 years ahead of its time. I can only say that I'm doing what I'm doing because a very short while later, after I got out of the hospital, my cousin and my mom felt the immediate need to take me to Arizona and try CBD oils. During that ride over, I'd been locked in a fetal position, only able to get maybe 4 hours of sleep. But I remember the very moment they put the oil on me, just this tiny little 30 milligram tincture. And I remember all my body popping and releasing. I could actually walk again. And I can't help but see their faces of the people around me who knew that this plant right here that deserves to be in the hands of the people who really need it, like myself and all of you here today. I guess I'm just grateful to be here, that I found my cure. And that we need to tell others that this is what it's done for us. Are we bad people just because we like to smoke it or eat it or whatever we need to do to take it? No, we're just taking our medicine like you, and we should be able to grow in our backyard like we're growing our tomatoes. Nobody should care. We shouldn't be persecuted for this. We're just shaman trying to complete the job that we've always done. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Matthew Britton, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been living on this island since 1979. And I got into this business of helping patients get their medical cannabis certificates by happenstance really, but basically the bottom line is I've been helping a lot of people throughout the entire state for about 18 years now. So what we do is, if you have a qualifying condition, come and see us. I work with Dr. Christopher Levinsky to certify you. We also certify patients on Maui, Molokai, Kauai, and Oahu. But our main office is right here in Hilo. So if you need to get your card to legally grow cannabis, then come see us. Our website is doctor420.com, doctor420.com, and you can see our website over there and learn all you need to know about the certification process. I've been active in legislative process ever since 1999 when I went to this Cannabis in 2000 convention on Oahu, so that the legislators who are thinking of making this thing illegal could understand what it really is. I think that I am one of the only consistently active proponents and activists in the cannabis realm in the States. So a lot of people have helped out, a lot of people have put their energy in and have moved on. There aren't so many people who are still active in the whole legislative process and in the industry itself from the very get-go. But I am one of them. So I continue to fight the battle and work for freeing the weed, if you will, and making it even better all the time. The most recent thing that has happened is that we now have the ability to renew your certificate for up to 3 years. Now, that was passed last year, but the State Department of Health still has not gotten their forms together yet. So we hope that they will soon, but not yet. But soon when they do, you'll be able to come and see us or any provider like us and renew or get your first card for up to 3 years. That's going to be a very good, beneficial thing for everybody involved. I also strongly encourage all of you to log on to the capital.hawaii.gov website and create an account over there and submit testimony, because really it is people like you and me that drive how this thing goes. Because when you and we put in testimony to the legislators actually listen. You know, they really want to hear information from all of us as to what we want. We elected the legislators. They want to know how we are thinking about this whole process. So please do that, get active with your legislators and move forward with a plan to make it good and free for all of us. But anyway, I have a blog on my website, doctor420.com, and I address some of these issues there. So you might want to log on to doctor420.com. Check out my blog site. I also discuss some other very important items that people ask about, and this has to do with travel. Can I travel with my bud or other products? The answer is, interesting, yes and no. Right? Yes and no. Okay, let me explain this a little bit more carefully. All right, so way back when, there was this guy named Woodhall, who was a local resident here. And thank you, Mr. Woodhall, if you're here. I really appreciate your effort, because you got busted with some weed at Kona Airport, and you took it all the way to the Hawaii Supreme Court and won. So that means that in the judicial branch of government for the state, you are allowed to travel with your product, okay? So we have precedent in the legal system so that you can travel with it. You can look it up, Woodhall versus State of Hawaii Supreme Court. You have to get the Supreme Court decision, not the lower courts. He appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. So there's that, okay? And then the legislators have passed laws that say you cannot travel with any cannabis products. That has come about since the judicial decision. So we have a disagreement between the judiciary branch of government and the legislative branch of government. So what do you do? Well, there's a conflict there. Usually, generally speaking, the judicial branch of government rules. There's precedent there. That's how our system works, is if there's a decision that has to be made, the judges make a decision on what the legislators were intending to do. Because the legislators don't always have great planning, they'll pass these laws which don't really make sense. So a trial case comes up, and then the judges rule on it. So that has happened with cannabis in this case. So what happens when you get caught at the airport with a little bit of weed? Does anybody know this? Has anyone experienced this? Well, I can tell you. Because, well, I got caught with some weed. I probably shouldn't say this. Is this being recorded? Oh my God. Okay, so generally speaking, what happens is they don't want to push it, right? Like anybody who knows, who's authority, is going to say to themselves, I wonder if this person knows about Woodhall. But they may not even know about Woodhall, right? But the basic thing is they will usually confiscate your supply, right? They will confiscate your supply. They could take you to court. They could take you all the way, and you would be the next test case to see if Woodhall is going to be upheld, or if the new legislative laws are going to then take over, and you will lose your case and have to do the consequences of whatever that is. But so far, knock on wood. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. There's nothing around. Oh, here we go. So hopefully, that's not going to happen, and everything will be legal before that goes down. But you can travel with it. Just don't get caught. Now, when you're traveling in a car here on this island, yes, you can travel with it. That is established. You can. Okay, no problem there. As long as you don't travel with more than 4 ounces, people. Do not travel with more than 4 ounces of weed. Got that? By car on this island or any other island. 4 ounces is the limit. Now, it has to be in a opaque, that means you cannot see into it, sealed container that is childproof. Okay? So that is the laws of traveling on this or any other island with your supply. Now, the letter of the law, which I seem to know some about because it's my career, I guess, it's my specialization. Yeah, I know some things about the law, is that you only have to be traveling from the dispensary to home in a straight line, right? The closest possible path between the dispensary and your house is where it's okay for you to have your no more than 4 ounces of weed. Okay. Now, what if you are a patient and you have a caregiver and they grow their supplies at their place and they're bringing it to you at your place. Well, the same thing is, straight line, that's it. You cannot go deviate over and drive to Kona if you live in Puna. And if you're in Kona and you get caught with your supply, well, the cop could wonder why you're traveling all the way in Kona, and it's definitely not on the straight path. I don't think that this has ever happened, actually. I really don't think that has ever happened. Okay. Sorry if this person lost my train of thought, but maybe I lost my train of thought. But basically, you can travel on this island as long as you have it in a sealed, opaque container. The cops really aren't going to be saying what's the shortest route between the dispensary and your home, or your caregiver and your home. They just don't really want to bother with that. So we have a participant here who's asking about the child-proof container. So generally speaking, it has to be like a medicine bottle, right, that is locked, but it doesn't have to specifically be childproof as long as it's sealed. So the participant here said that they don't hold 4 ounces usually. That's true. The ones you get from the dispensary hold far less. But I say childproof to be very careful and ultimately safe so they cannot harass you at all. But the law itself says it has to be in a sealed container. So it is sealed. A Ziploc baggie is sealed, but it's not opaque. So if you take a Ziploc baggie and put it inside a paper bag, then that is a combination of opaque and sealed. Right. But if you want to be super careful and you have a rookie cop from Minnesota or something who's going to harass you, then it should be in a child-proof container. Now, here's another weird thing about the law, is that if you have your supplies at home, this is a very little known law, but you should be aware of it. And that is that if you have your cannabis supplies at home where it has access, where minors have access to it, then it has to be in a child-proof container. Now, once again, I have never known of any patient being busted on this thing. Because why are the cops in your house to begin with? They would have to be in your house for some other reason, and then see your supply out and know the law enough to bust a person for having unsealed weed around a minor. I've never heard of this happening ever, but it is still part of the law. And another part of the law that you should be aware of is BHO. Who here knows what BHO is? Anybody? BHO? Do I see a hand over here? What BHO? What is BHO? Butane. Yes, butane. Absolutely correct. Butane honey oil, right? BHO. Butane honey oil. All right, so BHO is considered to be a Class B felony in this state. All right. Now, you can use any other extraction method to get your honey oil. You can use propane, you can use gasoline, you can use anything else in terms of a solvent, just not butane. Which is kind of bizarre because you really don't want to use diesel to get your good stuff out of your butt. But it's legal. But no, the reason that it is illegal is because a lot of people have blown themselves up by extracting the honey oil using butane. Right, so they blast the butane through the tube, and they get their honey oil, and they're doing it in a basement or something like that. And the butane, they don't have any extraction methods to recompound the butane, and it builds up in an enclosed space. And then they want to hit that dab, they flick their bic, and boom! Several people have actually died on this island because of that. So, as an attempt to save people's lives, the legislators have created this system to make it illegal to do that, which I think is a little bit kind of dumb, because if you make it legal and just say, okay, it's legal, but here are the requirements to how to do it safely, then probably those manufacturers who are doing it on the black market would want to get legal, and I don't know, but that's how that works about BHO. So those are the most important laws that I believe you should be aware of right now in terms of the current thinking in the states about cannabis. Of course, always be aware of the new laws that are coming out because they affect you. There is no established level of impairment that is correlated to a level of THC present in your system, right? There just is none. There is precedent in many other states where a person gets pulled over, they get tested, they have THC in their system, they go to the judge rules in several states. I think that now Nevada has joined the ranks of, I believe it was New Mexico, and making a precedent that you cannot prosecute somebody under DWI with cannabis alone as the only intoxicant in the system because there's no way to judge level of impairment. Now I can use my own self as an example. Back in the day, I could smoke a big fat doobie like that and go drive and go to college and get good grades and everything was fine. No problem. I was perfectly functional at that level of consumption. Not so nowadays. No. Yep. If I were to take one hit of this amazing bud that I myself grow, or any of you probably do, I would not want to be outside driving around. So if you can see the difference in level in me back then compared to now, smoking one toke versus a whole big fat doobie, and that's doobie number 3 for the day, you can tell that there is no way to compare the level of function or dysfunction with level of THC in your system. Now, this is a precedent, and anybody who really knows the system here can successfully fight that thing in court. So there have been some cases, of course I cannot name them because it's all confidential. Not necessarily that you will get busted and go to jail. It really depends upon your level of knowledge when you are talking very politely with the officer who's interested in you, right? So if you mention that you are aware that there's precedent, that there's really no correlation between level of THC in your system and impairment, but you'd be happy to go and do a test case in this state because there is none in this state yet. You'd be happy to work with the ACLU and a few other advocacy groups and get it. You know, I'm sure that the cop would be more than happy to be the one to represent the opposite side of this case in court, or not. I don't know. Maybe you'd have to have a discussion with that cop about that. But I don't know. It still has not been established yet in this state. So that's another thing that we have to really work on. Thank you for the question. Next.
In California, there's a law
Okay, so the comment over here is that in California, it's up to the judgment of the police officer as whether or not the person is acting in such a way as to be impaired. And that technically is accurate, because if a cop were to pull me over and I have like 3 toes, and I'm all like around and going like about 10 miles an hour in the 55 mile an hour zone, yeah, I'm probably impaired. I know. Right? So it really is up to the judgment of the police officer as to how, why you were pulled over, what you were doing in order to demonstrate that you were impaired, right? However, if you're doing fine and you just have like your safety check expired or something like that, and they smell weed and then they give you a ticket, and they go to court, and the judge asks, well, was he driving erratically, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have a judge to represent you that says, well, there's no evidence of that, then you would most likely win. So this whole area is a little bit, on a gray area, but generally speaking, if you work, cooperatively and nicely with the officer who's interested in you, and there's no other circumstances involved, then you're probably okay. Now, this does lead to another interesting concept that often happens, and that is people get busted all the time. You see in the police blotter that they got busted for this and this and this and this, and then, a cannabis charge. Well, generally speaking, what the cops will do is if a person is like driving erratically and they are drunk and they have a whole bunch of cocaine in their car and they have a severed head from the person that they just visited, well, they're probably just going to do all of those charges, and oh, by the way, they found a joint in there, so they're going to tack on the weed charge. So that's usually why most people get their cannabis charges nowadays. It's like a tack-on thing to other violations that people have done because, well, stupid. Okay, I'm sure my time is just about up, but I would like to answer any more questions. Very good questions, by the way, from the gallery on the right. Any other questions that people may have about laws? Okay, well, if you want to learn more, just go to my website. Continue to be legal, use your medicine in a responsible fashion, advocate for a good movement forward in terms of legislative action, know your rights so that you can help support our law enforcement officers to not be distracted by cannabis issues and focus their attention on more important things. Because really remember, we are here, I think I am here actually specifically to help law enforcement themselves. I respect law enforcement. I believe law enforcement is very important. We need to be able to let them focus on the important things that they need to focus on. So whenever you're talking with law enforcement, they are our friends. Don't consider them as our enemies. We work with them, they work with us. It's a mutually agreeable, it's a respectful thing. So if we have that type of a low attitude, I think it'll all be good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Dr. 420, and all of those things that he mentioned, we have that information for you as well. Our next speaker is a medical patient and also a volunteer for here, the LaLiva Pahoa, the folks that are putting this on for you. So please welcome Sharon.
Hello, my name is Sharon Lewis. Tell you a bit about my patient history. I was in the technical industry in the Bay Area for over 25 years to raise my daughter. And I worked hard, 24/7, and I played just as hard. Camping, concerts, to Hawaii on vacation. Then one day after spending the weekend in Cabo kayaking and swimming and having a grand old time, I was driving home from work and was about to go to a dispensary in California. I didn't know at the time how much where I was going was really going to mean to me in the future. But I woke up in an ambulance. I found out later that I had a seizure. My condition got worse. I had grand mal, deep mal seizures, so many that I was unable to really function as, a working adult. So my neurologist tried to help me and told me I had a boring brain and kind of sent me on my way. So I fought for my care. I fought for my help. I went to another doctor who was able to find people. But in time, it was the only option for me because unfortunately the medicine wasn't working and I smoked during the day, but I never thought about nighttime. And that's when I was having my seizures, was when I was sleeping. So I had the surgery and it down or when the eruption happened. And stress, diet, maybe age. I had a couple of great procedures. And since that time, I followed my own advice and other people's advice, and I started taking CBD at night because I could smoke all day. I've smoked my whole life, recreationally, and just as a normal medical person, and like as a normal adult. But I never thought about, what about when I was sleeping, and that's unfortunately when I would have my seizures. So I started taking CBD, and it is working for me. I am seizure-free, and I would recommend it to anybody. And I recently started a support group in Pahoa. It's called Healing Minds Hawaii. They meet the first Tuesday of every month at the museum in Hawaii. I have some flyers on the table if anybody's interested in it. But I don't have to say, CBD